Hey friends, Tux here. About 2 months ago, I did a review for each of these as a unboxing in two separate videos. The game console player, as seen here, very cool looking, very purple, translucent, big battery. Wow, look at that. Big battery, lots and lots of games included, arcade classics, consoles, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, all sorts of good stuff in there. And also this game player here with features a really beautiful big screen and also features all sorts of games, everything from, Nintendo properties like Super Nintendo, Atari, 2600, 5200, which is rare, 7800 and more. So of these two players, which one would I buy? Which one have I played the most of? Okay, so in the 2 months roughly since I've got these two players, I've been playing both of them off and on, okay? And I found that I tend to gravitate. If you're just buying one player, I tend to lean towards the game player, okay? And the reason why is this is a really beautiful big screen, kind of reminiscent of like Nintendo Switch a little bit, or maybe like somewhat like a smaller version of a Steam Deck or something. And I like that big screen, especially for games like this right here, Berserk. It plays amazing, and it plays games like Super, like, Defender, I guess you call it Stargate, Super Defender, whatever, like amazingly well. So if you're into classic Atari games or classic arcade games from the 80s, this is probably the way to go. But again, there's lots more modern systems like, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, things like that on here as well, In the actual video, the unboxing video, I do go through channel after channel of different games in here, and it plays so many. And this system here is wonderful as well, too. It does play a whole bunch of games. One clear advantage I do want to point out on this system over this system is the fact it does have a history, okay? This one here, you can make favorites, which is really nice, like Berserk here, one of my favorites, all right? But you can actually see a history, at least as far as I've found so far, a history of what you played in the past. And when you're talking thousands of games on either of these two consoles, it can become like a little cumbersome trying to get through to find your very favorite games, And if you marked it as a favorite, cool, that works on both players. But if you forgot to mark it as a favorite, or if maybe at the time you weren't really sure it was going to be a favorite, and then a month later you're like, oh god, what was that game I was playing? And you have to look through thousands of games to find it, especially if it was like a bootleg or something, which is included. There's some bootlegs on both these systems, as well as actual ROMs, it can be really hard to find sometimes. So that could be a problem. In fact, originally I was looking for Pokemon. I looked through this whole system here, and as much as this has actual, games from Nintendo, Zelda's, oops, as I drop it, Zelda's, stuff like that, it could use a rubberier surface to hold on to. It didn't really seem to have Pokemon. Okay, so that's where I'm going with this. It didn't seem to have Pokemon. And then when I unboxed this one, I could have sworn there were some Pokemon games from Game Boy in here, and then I was looking through the thousands of titles trying to find Pokemon, either named Pokemon, Sapphire Green or something, or a classic Pokemon game, and I couldn't find it. Now, another standout between the two players is the fact that, again, if you're looking for games which aren't frequently on handhelds, at least until more recently, like Berserk, like from Atari 5200, it's really hard to find a system that has it. Very few systems really covered the Atari 5200, so if you're into classic Atari games, this may be the way to go, actually, okay? And Berserk looks great on that big screen. It plays amazing, In fact, I featured this in the JPEG, I think, for the unboxing of this at the time. So it's really a great way of playing classic Berserk in a really nice form factor, However, this system here has lots of amazing games as well. It does feature classic arcade games, both through, like MAME, as an emulated arcade ROM, and it also does feature, like, discs like Williams' Greatest Hits on PlayStation 1, or on Game Boy Advance, or on blah, blah, blah. In fact, in some cases, you might find the same game that was released on multiple systems, like Williams' Greatest Hits, both for the Game Boy screen and also on one of the other screens, like Super Nintendo or something, So these two systems do not really, because these are ROMs and they're like older arcade games going back to about PlayStation 1, and they both have PlayStation 1, I will add. In fact, this one here, looking back on it, since it does have a favorites here, or a history, you can look back and see some of the games I've played, and I'm sure there's like Twisted Metal right there, so that's, what, PlayStation 1, the Super Punch-Out, Gran Turismo. Okay, so it does have a lot of great classic arcade games as well as some more modern consoles. And when I say modern, I mean like 1995 and above consoles, like PlayStation and above consoles, you know, so that's pretty cool. I think this one here is probably a little better for retro games, and this one here is a little better for classic games, you know, a little bit after the retro area, like, you know, again, in the 90s, you know, that kind of thing. Both of them play lag-free and play great, and again, both of them come with thousands of ROMs, you know, thousands of games, and sure, some of them are bootlegs, but I'm pretty sure you'll find something enjoyable, more than something, a lot of enjoyable games on either console. You really can't go wrong. I would suggest buying them both, okay? But if you only had to buy one, that was a question from a few viewers, which one would I pick? That's tough. I mean, I'd probably go with this one, quite frankly, because I think this one has more rarities, which are harder to find functional on other things. Like it does have Counter-Strike, which is a really hard to find home console only game, and then of course like Berserk I just mentioned, you know, so I tend to lean towards this one. I play this one more also because of the big beautiful screen, you know, so that's really nice. Look at that screen, it's gorgeous, you know, so a very big beautiful screen, and this one here is a slightly smaller screen. Now this one here does have really nice rubbery feel to it, both in the plastics and again in the buttons are very high quality, and I think this one might actually be even a little snappier, like a little faster, to be honest, but I tend to have played that one more, so I guess my vote goes to the game player, you know, but they're both great players. You really can't go wrong with either of them, and I'm sure you'll find thousands of hours of things to play, especially if you're into things like King of the Fighters and, you know, different things from like those classic fighting games from the late 80s and 90s, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, guys, if you have any further questions, let me know. Again, links in the description down below for both of them. If I had to pick just one, God, it's so tough, but I guess I would go with this one because of the big screen, okay? All right, friends, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Click the link.